So what it's like to be a company commander at Berget, or well, any big game actually. It's not that much difference if you go to Berget or any other big game. Maybe it's interesting to know what drove me into the company command role. Well, there are a few things actually. One of the things is that the HQ that I had, they trusted me in taking up that position. They saw some potential in me, which was really nice to hear from people that have been doing this for years and years. And the other thing is, I like to structurize chaos. And I felt that being in a company commander role, it felt like I could bring a lot of structure to a chaos with people that, yeah, just want to have fun. And I just want to see it structurized, if that makes any sense. It's important to know that the things that I did in the past, they were very important to I used to play Airsoft and why I like to do the things that I do. And one of those things is I want to give the people a good time while they're on the game. And as a company commander, you need to take up that responsibility. I took that responsibility very highly and I wanted to give the people a good time. That was my responsibility. And I like doing that. I have been organizing games in the past, and all those things led up to me trying to give the Airsofters a good time. And if I could do that at Berget and having fun while doing it, yeah, that was a perfect role for me. So that is why I thought company commander was going to be an interesting role for me, but I had no idea how it was going to be. And you're actually you're the middleman. You're one of the middlemen, because you got a HQ. Below HQ you got your company commanders. Well, HQ is basically battalion command, depending on which names they want to give it to. But HQ is battalion command. Below that you have company command, that was me. Below that you have platoon commanders. Below that you have your squad leaders, and below that you have your squad members. So you're basically the link between the people that get the missions from the organizer and the people executing the missions. And it's your job, your task, to do it the way you think is the best way of doing it, to make sure that everybody has a good time and secure as much missions as possible. And usually a company is about 100 to 200 people, depending on the game you play, depending on the people that want to join your group. And it's a mix, for me it was a mix between infantry, mechanized and armored. So we had 3 platoons of infantry from about 30 people each, and then we had 1 platoon of mechanized, with some cars that broke down, and we had 1 car left during the game itself. And then we had the armored, that was the tracked vehicles from Jeep Tom. So that was about 120 people in total that was playing together as one big company. And one thing that is very important in my opinion, if you're leading that big of a group, is you cannot lead everybody. You need to trust your leading people, your platoon commanders, your squad leaders, to do their job. So I was actually only leading 5 people. So when I did a briefing, 5 people were the people that I was talking to. The other people could be around, yes, but the 5 people needed to be or 10 people, the 2 ICs could also be there. But those 10 people were my communication. And how they did it, I didn't care. As long as they got the job done, I was happy. And they did what they had to do, and I didn't interfere what they were doing. It's important that you trust the people that you're giving your tasks to. And then of course they have to get some feedback. But they did that and it worked very, very well. It's the same thing for every part in the whole structure. HQ is giving missions to those 3-4 company commanders that they have. Those company commanders talk to 4-5 platoon commanders, and those platoon commanders talk to 5 squads, 3 to 5 squads, depending on how big the unit is. And those people talk to their squad members. So basically you are always giving commands to around 5 people. And one thing that is important in that is that the bigger the unit that you have, the bigger the area you have, and the larger the time frame that you have to plan in. If you're in a squad, you're only planning for a few meters, like 10, 20, 50 meters. And your time span is like instant. You see an enemy, you need to react to it immediately. You need to plan your route and you go there.
Line up! Fire and move! Reload! You left flank, stay left!
Come on!
The bigger unit you have, the higher in command you are, the more that changes, and the more the time and the location is getting more of an effort to fix those problems. If people are so far away, you get in communication problems because radios are getting out of reach and you have to start using long-range communication, which is always a little bit harder to set up. You have to get the people to their locations. You have to think about logistical support, transport, all those things you don't have to account for as a squad leader. You just have to point your people. And also the time frame that you're working in. Like I said, squad leaders are going instantly. For me as a company commander, I was thinking hours. I was thinking half hours, 2 hours. How much time does it take to get my squads there? How is the enemy is going to react to that? And that was a big difference how I usually did it when I was a platoon commander or a squad leader. That was very instant, and I needed to like take a gear back and slow it down, bring that structure in the chaos that squad leaders are usually working in, because that instant they're under fire. I am usually not under fire. I can have the time to think ahead, which is another important aspect of being a company commander. You need to think ahead. When things are happening, you have to trust your platoon commanders that they are doing their job and you're already planning for the next few steps. So what you need to do, you need to be able to think ahead, but also have those plans ready for if something is not going as planned. And I had one time at Berget, I just stopped working. I was like, okay, things are not going as I wanted them to go. I wanted to micromanage a little bit too much, and people were everywhere. And I like to assign my people to different areas. So I was like, everybody shut up now, I need to think. So I dropped to my knee, I'd start drawing in the sand. I was like, okay, I got people there, I got people there, those are still alive, those are dead. Okay, I have 2 people there, I have a platoon there. All right. I messed up everything. I scrambled everything. I gave areas to my units and I gave orders to my platoon commanders, and they did whatever I asked them to do, which was amazing because they saw that I was thinking about the plan and there was a plan. So they were like, okay, there is chaos and this dude is giving us some structure. Let's see how this plays out. And it worked. And it was amazing. And it took me a while to be like, okay, take a step back and relax, because you're in a safe spot. People are still holding their positions. Take a breather, think, plan ahead. Don't plan in the moment. Don't play panic soccer or whatever. We call it panic soccer or panic football, whatever. It's like something's happening, you need to react it immediately. Yes, you need to react to it, but you need to think about all the angles that you need to make sure that everything is working when you put a plan into action. Is company commanding different in Airsoft than it is in the Army? That is a very difficult question for me to answer because I have no experience of how it is in the Army. The only thing that I can do is I can tell you how it is in Airsoft, and I have some kind of an idea what's happening in the Army or in the military, but I have no idea. So I might be completely wrong with this, but there are a few things that are very specifically for Airsoft, and that is, well, you need to manage your people. And I think that's a little bit the same in the military. You need to manage the people that you are working with. But one big difference is in Airsoft, people are there to have fun. They paid for the event. In the Army, they are there because it's their job. You can send them because it's their job. In Airsoft, you need to be able to keep the people happy so they keep following you. They need to understand that you are there to give them a good time, and then they will respect you and they will do what you're saying or what you're asking them to do. If you don't have that respect, the people will never do whatever you ask them to do because they don't care. And I can say it's their right to do it because they paid to have a good time during the event. But like if you go to a bigger game, you're supposed to follow the orders of the people that are above you. But on the other hand, the people that are above you, they need to respect you as a player. And that is a big difference, in my opinion, if you play Airsoft as in a company commander or in any leadership role. You need to respect the people that are below you. I think in the military you also need to respect them, but still at the end, if you tell them go there, they need to go there. In Airsoft, well, they can just say, I don't think so. So keep your people happy and they will provide a lot of stuff for you too. That's very important. Another thing that is so different well, not so different, but a lot of the tactics that you use in the military, you can just scratch them in Airsoft because we don't have air support. We don't have fancy radios. We have to work with what we have. We use the basic radios. We use our phones as a means of communication. But also the engagement distances are, well, you're never shooting more than 100 meters. You're always like 50 meters is your engagement distance. And yes, there are sometimes a little bit further up, but your engagement distance, the way you move around to people, it's always close quarters, or it's always very close up to each other. You might see the enemy a few hundred meters away, you might know they are there, but you can not do anything about it. So you have to work on the tactics that are only meant to use them in close quarter environments. So you can just, if you open up a military book, you can, I think, throw 75% tactic wise away, because it's always like maneuver around, make sure that you're in a safe distance. Well, in airsoft, if you're 100 meters away, you're in a safe distance, because most airsoft rifles will not be able to hit you. That's a whole different way of using the tactics that people use in the military. Another thing is that the airsofters, they are not trained military. They have different backgrounds. People are gamers, people just sit behind a desk, or they are any job. Any person has a different job and a different background in airsoft. So you have to go back to the basic, like simple maneuvers, go flank left, go flank right, middle, assign areas. That's about it. Don't overdo it. Your cars will be shut out, your logistics will be not working, people will just drop out because they are tired or they just want to eat. It's something that you don't have in the military, something you don't need to account for. But in airsoft, those are things that you need to account for. And that is the experience that I have from the past games that I organized, from the leadership roles that I took in the past, is that you need to make sure that the people have a good time, they will respect you, and they will go with you. And that is very important, that they respect what you're doing. And I just briefly mentioned like tactics.
Line up! Line up! Line up! Fire and move! Reload! You left flank, stay left!
Come on!
Two guys with me! Left side, flank on the left on the road!
No!
You know?
Covering.
Turks!
Back in.
Come in! Come in! Papa 6 here!
But there is so much more about the tactic wise, like communication. We are stuck with the channels that we're allowed to use legally. We have a respawn that's not happening in the military. You just, well, or you go to a medical facility because you're wounded, but you still have your reserve troops. But that's a whole different thing than respawn, because the enemy can respawn. And that's the thing that makes it so different, because you don't know where the respawn points are. You might know them, but they might have mobile respawns or a different respawn rule that you don't know about, and they are getting back into the action. So the action is so much closer, so much faster than I think it is in the military. So you need to be like constantly moving, constantly thinking like, okay, what can happen next? Where can they respawn from? The movement is so much faster during the whole 3 days than I think it is in the military. But please, I would like to have that would actually be very interesting, to have a conversation with somebody in a leadership role in the military, just sit down and be like, okay, this is airsoft. How does it happen in the military? What's the difference? Because if you go to a Milsim event, they all say it's military simulation. Well, gear-wise, gun-wise, yes, it is. Is the action happening at the same time frames? What's the difference? Maybe I have to ask somebody to sit down with me and talk about that, but that's gonna be in another interview. Hopefully we can do that interview. That would be super interesting. The planning for Berget 19, how did I start with that? I didn't know how to start it. I had some ideas, things that I wanted to try out as a company commander, that I tried as a platoon commander in a previous game, and I wanted to scale it up to Berget. But the first thing that we needed to do was, first I needed to get the approval from HQ that I could take up company command. That was not really a problem. They were very happy that I wanted to take up the role, which was, I was really honored that they thought that I was going to do a good job. And then the meeting started. And that's one thing that people forget. We start having meetings in December. I think in December we had our first meeting, our planning meeting for Berget. Okay, how are we going to do that? Who is going to be our company commanders? And then we're gonna like get the officers filled in. But that was the first meeting that we had in December, and then in February we started having regular meetings. And those meetings were very important for me to find the people, but also get familiar with the people. And that's very important. You need to know who you are going to spend 4 or 5 days in the field with. And I rather fix problems before the game than I do them in the game, because that will cause a lot of energy, that will use a lot of energy that I can spend to other people if I need to focus on one guy that's not doing his task. So from February we had meetings, and every meeting we had a different topic. We worked on communication, we worked on who we are, how we're going to work, how we're going to base defense, what structure are we going to use, what are we going to do for morale, how are we going to set up. A lot of topics, so everybody had the chance to be like, okay, next month, next 2 weeks, we had meetings every 2 weeks. Maybe that's important. Like, we had meetings with HQ. I had every Sunday, every second Sunday there was a meeting with HQ, and every second Thursday there was a meeting for me as a company with my platoon commanders. So I had 4 meetings for Berget every month. And that preparation made sure that when we came on site, we knew everybody, we knew what we could expect from people, and we didn't have to do any management on site, from like people management, from like where, in which group are you in, what group are you going to do. That was all planned. So we came on site and we could finally work on the game plan, because we didn't do a lot of that before the game. So yeah, a lot of meetings, a lot of different topics. That was very important for me to get my confidence ready that I could do it, because that was, for me, I'm a person that always doubt if things are going to work out. But when the meetings went on, I noticed that, hey, I can do this. I can get that structure. And the closer I got to Berget, the more afraid I was getting. Like, yes, I can do the planning stuff, but will I be able to do it in the field? Now I have time to think before the game. On Berget itself, it's gonna be another speed. It's gonna be so much more faster, and will I be able to cope with everything, not being able to sit down, plan it out slowly. And it worked. So I will not go too far away again, because otherwise I'm going to be in a whole different story. Another thing that we planned for, and I already briefly talked about it, is the strategy that I wanted to work with.
All right, about 8 people at a time. Make sure you are ready, and the rest we're gonna start walking, and we know the drill. And then they come back, we pick them up again, and...
Like I said, I worked as a platoon commander at Belém. We worked with a system that the mechanized and infantry was working closer together. So what I did, everybody paid some part for the vehicles. Otherwise what you have is that vehicle have their own crew, and they never are like interlaced with the people, the infantry. They can do whatever they want, because there is no real link between it. At Belém we tried it for the first time, and everybody paid for the vehicles, and the vehicles were a part of the bigger group. So I wanted to do that for Berget, but on a larger scale, with 120 people, with 5 vehicles. It didn't turn out the way that I hoped it was going to turn out, because we lost vehicles to mechanical issues right before the game or on the first day. So we had 1 vehicle left, but still everybody paid a small amount of money to use those vehicles, and we use them as transport, and everybody had a patch, so the vehicle drivers knew if they see somebody with a patch, they can get a ride. All the other people, they didn't pay for the vehicle, so they were not part of our group. And it worked very well, but we need to tweak it a little bit. But those things were made before the game. I don't want to make that in the game itself. I want to do that before the game, well before the game. So if it's something is not working out, we can change it. I learned a lot from Berget, and there will be some changes in the after action report. We already talked about it, and there will be some changes in the future. But the main concept was, I really loved it, but you need to plan for it. And if you see that's not going to work, just scratch it and try something else. So how did it go on Berget? Well, I think it went well. I think most of the people had a good time. You will never be able to please everybody. But I think the things that we planned out for, they worked in the best way possible. And because we had planned for so many different things, a lot of things could go wrong before the whole structure crumbled down. And I think we were on our backup systems, but we could use that, we could do that because we had backup systems. One example is that we came on site, we noticed we didn't have any 4G connection at all. We planned to use it as an app to track our people, an app to communicate with each other, long range or text messaging app, and we had a backup. If that didn't work, we were going to use text messaging to each other, but even that didn't really work. So what we did, we came on site, we checked it, we made a split decision. We said, okay, we scratched the whole 3 layers of communication that uses a phone. And that was one of the best decisions that we made, because it didn't work and it was not going to work. And if we tried to use it, it was going to, the system was going to crumble down. So we just had 2 layers of communication left. That was radio and just sending runners and voice. And those 2 systems worked. So because of the planning, it worked on site.
Mika,
Chaos, this is
you will hear it.
Blue Force is retreating before the might of the Panzerwagen and That is so lovely to hear. Here with me, why Panzer is the sexiest word on the planet.
Was it the best thing? I think we learned a lot from it, but that's why the planning is so important. If you don't plan for it and stuff goes wrong, and fixing that on site is not easy. Fixing that before the game, you have time, you can think about it for a few weeks and you can fix it, you can try to find solutions for it. And communication-wise, that was one of the things that we did. Structure-wise, vehicle-wise, we were ready to use our backups if needed, and it worked. But overall, being a company commander at Berget, it was not what I expected at all. I knew what I was getting into, but I didn't expect the mental drainage. Because after a day of gaming, I was mentally drained. Physically, I could go, but mentally I was drained because you're constantly finding solutions. And thankfully, I had a good team around me. I had my 2IC that did an amazing job. He took over when he needed. When he saw that I was getting like overwhelmed, he took over. He was like, okay, I'll take over from now. I was like, okay, do it. And I could let go, because that is not something that I like to do. I like to keep the things for myself, and he did an amazing job. So I trust him that he will, hopefully he will be doing it again, because it's an amazing guy to have as a 2IC, and hopefully we can have a more switching role, which I mean is that, yes, I'm first in command, but he should be able to just take over the command instantly and just be commander or a company commander for a day, and then the next day I will be doing it. I will be his support role if needed. And we had to do it because some medical issue that we had during the game. I had to go out of the game, and he had to lead the full scale attack on the blue base, and he did an amazing job. It was perfect to have somebody that if I wasn't able to do it, that I could trust that he was going to do the things that the company needed to, like, the company needed to move forward. And it worked. It worked really well. And another thing that drained my mental state is that the people management was so much more than I expected. You're constantly fixing small issues, but because you're fixing those small issues during the game, people keep their morale high, people respect you, people keep listening to what you tell them. If you're not interested in how the people are feeling and how they think the game is developing and how they like to play the game, you will lose them at second day. They will go rogue, they will do whatever they want, but they will not be playing together. And you can only have a good game if everybody's working together. So I kept going around asking people, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Do you have any issues? Something that I can fix for you? And because I went to all the people, well, almost, I forgot a few, so that is a remark on me. I didn't go to all the people because some platoons were working so well that I was like, okay, I need to focus on the ones that are not working well, because their morale is high. I don't need to fix their morale. They're doing an amazing job. I need to go to the people that I feel that are not having that much fun and see how I can fix that. I can listen to them, I can change stuff up, and I can make assumptions in my head, like, how can I make this better for those guys? And yeah, that mentally drained myself so much. And that was something that I didn't expect. I expect a lot of people talking, and I'm a very social guy. I like to talk to people, but I reached a limit. I was like, hey, everybody needs to shut up now. I need to think. I also needed to make very tough decisions. And I already said responsibility. It is so important. If you take up a commanding role, you take responsibility. It's I'm responsible for what happens. This is my company. If something goes wrong with any person in the company, it's my responsibility. It means that I was not on top of it. And I take that very highly. I want to people, if somebody said something like, okay, somebody from Papa company did this, it was my responsibility and it reflected back on me. So I wanted to avoid that at all costs. But taking up that responsibility also means that you need to make tough decisions. And during the game, something was not working in one of my platoons. And I needed to make the decision like how I'm going to fix this. Because the communication was not there. People were not having fun. People were complaining in that platoon. How can I fix this? And at the time, I didn't have time to like go to the bottom of what was going wrong. I needed to fix it. So I switched command in that platoon just to make sure that things were working again. And because I had a backup platoon commander in my company unit, he could take over immediately and do his thing. And that worked. It wasn't fun to do. I hated doing that because the person that I took away his platoon commander in 2IC, it is not a fun thing to hear. But at that time, for me as a company commander, I needed to make that decision to think about the greater group of people. That was the whole platoon that was not really having a good time. And it turned out to be the right decision. People were having more fun playing afterwards, but it was a sucky decision to make. But it's my responsibility. If I could easily be like, okay, screw it, people can have, let them fix it, it's their platoon. Still, it's my responsibility for every person in the platoon to have a good time. Luckily, I made the right decision. I learned a lot from it. For me, I usually am afraid to do stuff like that. But at the point, I was like, my responsibility, my group, I need to put my foot down and take this decision. And I did. And yeah, I learned a lot from doing that. And even now, I'm still learning a lot from making that decision on how I could do it better. How can I change it? How can I improve what I was doing? So everything that you do is learning experience. And if you don't learn from it, well, you missed out. And maybe one last thing that happened on Berget was that I need to keep myself from going to the front line. And it was good that I had my security detail that was like, dude, get back. No frontline duties right now. You need to, if you're down, the structure doesn't have any commanding unit anymore. So you need to go back, see what's going on, trust your people. Yes, during base attacks, I went in because at that point, the base is not my responsibility. That's the base commander and he's leading the people everywhere. If people are shooting, you just go in and shoot. I still need to learn to be a little bit more on the background.
Contact HQ! Hit! Come here!
You have a medic here?
Who's coming?
I love this medic station. You're alive?
Nope.
So that's the life guy.
But still, and that's something that I learned. That's something that I learned. Berget is a game. Every airsoft game is a game where everybody needs to have fun. Maybe I was a little bit too cautious. That maybe I was like, okay, we need to secure the area. This is mission. And you cannot forget that it's a game that people want to have fun. People want to shoot. So it's okay to send them into a suicide mission or give them a fun, crazy mission that in the military you would never do that. But be like, okay, you can go. It's fine. Go have some fun. And that's something that I really, for me, it was difficult to make the switch in my mind. Okay, tactically, not the best decision, but you had fun, right? Okay, and that's why we go to games like that. We want to have fun. We want to have sure that everybody has a good time. So next time, finding that balance, fun missions, military, strategic, military, tactically missions that you need to find the balance to make sure that everything is going very smoothly, mission-wise and people happiness-wise. I know that there are a few more things that I learned some lessons from, and one is that LARP, I messed up on the LARP part. I really did. I was so focused on the people management, the missions that we needed to do that I just forgot about the LARP. So I made some decisions that were not the best ones. So I tried to fix that by having a dedicated LARP guy in my command unit, and he will be my advisor. I will be like, okay, is this a good decision mission-wise, story-wise? If it's not, give me a reply and I will try to come up with a better plan to cope with that, to make sure that the LARP part is not forgotten in the whole game. And that one person will also be responsible to get the information flow, what is going on in the mission, because that is one thing that I didn't mention yet, but it's very important that people want to know why they are doing things. It's not just like build a bunker here. It's like we need a bunker here because we are in defensive positions, and it's our task to make sure that we have a secured area, and when the people are coming in from this side, we can defend that side, not just build it here. People want to be involved. People want to know why they are doing things. Like in the military, you can say like build a bunker here. Nobody cares. And the other thing that I want to change is how the mechanized and infantry was working. Yes, it was working superbly well. I was so happy that it worked with the one vehicle that we had. The only thing was we only had one vehicle and people paid for getting rides. And because we only had one vehicle and we had 100 people, and the one vehicle could only fit 8 people, it was like the vehicle did a really amazing job by bringing people up and down as much as they could. And because we were also in a defensive position, we didn't use the vehicles that much. So people were just walking close by and not moving away like a kilometer away. So we didn't need to use the vehicles. And that made like, okay, it was not really needed to have more vehicles. At some point, yes, but most of the time it wasn't needed to have more vehicles. But if our mission or our base will be in a different position, then we need to like rethink the whole structure. And I don't know yet how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to tell you all the secrets that I want to use and how I'm going to use it, but we are always thinking on a new plan to incorporate a little bit more vehicles in a different way that work differently than our transport vehicles. So it's a work in progress. It was the first time that we used it, and I got a lot of feedback from the players, and we're adapting it to next year or other games to make sure that it just works better. And the final question, will I do it again? Yes, I had so much fun. I will change stuff up, but yes, if HQ wants me back, I will do it again. I think I felt that this is my spot in a Berget game. It's something that I like to do. It's bringing all my experience of being an Airsoft player for 16 years now, 16 years, something like that. Organizing games, doing all the stuff that I'm doing behind the scenes for Airsoft, all the structuring about stuff that I do, it brings it all together in being a company commander at Berget. And yeah, I had an amazing time. It was one of my best Bergets because of the structure, because everything worked. Well, I say everything worked. We were on our backup plans, but it still worked because we planned for it. And it felt so good to see all the smiling faces in the company. People had a good time, people enjoyed themselves. Even though we were in the middle of the map, we were sandwiched all the time. We had people coming from both sides all the time. We had not the best road network. We only had one car. It was hot as hell. We didn't have a lot of shade, but people came together as a group and they worked together as a company. And that was amazingly to see. And that's something that I want to go back to next year and improve it even more. So yeah, will I be company commander again at Berget? Probably yes. So yeah, that was my story as a company commander at Berget. And now I can talk directly into the camera because this is a whole new system that I want to try out. I want to try out to bring a little bit more personality into the things that I'm talking about. This is more an interview style setup. Let me know if you like this style of setup of types of videos that I'm doing right now. And hopefully I can do it with some other people in the near future, because I want to bring out people and give a face to what people do. I can make videos about myself, but I want to interview people. I want to show what happens, and I want to do it a little bit more interview style, documentary style. And if you like this style of video, it's a little bit slower. It's not fast paced. It's the things that I like to do. And if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, also let me know what I can change. If you have interesting topics to talk about, let me know in the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. That will be not a weekly video anymore, because those videos take a lot more time to process, prepare, and execute. Thank you. Don't forget to like the video, and if you want to keep up to date about everything, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye guys.